It's Monday, March 27. In the headlines, Windalco workers issue strike notice. In business news, we feature young boss Makita Layla. Regionally, India eyes a long-term oil deal with Guyana. Internationally, Honduras establishes diplomatic ties with China. And in sports news, Reggae Boys versus Mexico. This is the news on PBC Jamaica. I'm Simone Absalom Gale. Representatives of the Union of Clerical, Administrative and Supervisory Employees, UCASE, are set to meet with the Ministry of Finance this week to address issues raised by Windalco workers. The clock started running at 6 o'clock Monday morning on a 72-hour strike notice served on a bauxite alumina company, Windalco, a subsidiary of Russia-based UC Rusal. President of the Union of Clerical, Administrative and Supervisory Employees, Vincent Morrison, says talks about wage and fringe benefits negotiations between the management of the company and the union had come to an impasse. This week's protest plans are hinged on the success of an upcoming meeting. More than 600 production workers employed to the company have voted to take industrial action, effective 6 o'clock Thursday morning, if the impasse is not resolved. Come Friday, Jamaicans will be able to access high-security e-passports. The Passport, Immigration and Citizenship Agency, PICA, says the e-passport is an electronic machine-readable passport with an embedded microchip that stores a digital version of the holder's biographical data. PICA describes it as a robust biometric document with added layers of security that can aid in the fight against new and emerging threats to identity theft and national security. The introduction of the e-passports in Jamaica will see the nation joining more than 150 countries doing so, including 11 CARICOM states. This week is National Mathematics Week 2023. The Ministry of Education and Youth has declared it so under the theme Reigniting the Maths Flame, Light Up Our World. Speaking at a recent JIS think tank, National Mathematics Coordinator Dr. Tamika Benjamin said the ministry is encouraging parents, teachers, students, and Jamaicans on a whole to support the move.
So we want to encourage all Jamaicans, all of our stakeholders to get on board, to encourage a child to participate in one of the activities, and we want to encourage our teachers to continue to work with us at the Ministry of Education as we move to change what happens in our classroom and to sustain and see increased levels of improvements at all levels of the system.
The official launch of National Mathematics Week 2023, along with the staging of the Mathematics Teacher of the Year Award ceremony, will take place at University of the West Indies Mona Campus Assembly Hall on Monday, March 27.
In terms of what the winner will get as a gift, being the winner, they'll have JN, who is our national sponsor and only sponsor to the competition. They would be awarded with an expense-paid trip to NCTM, that is a conference for teachers, and they'll also get membership from NCTM where they can go online to get resources from this online space. They will also be awarded with a tablet as well as a trophy.
Meantime, the PBCJ team is recognizing one math enthusiast, Amoy Page, a past student of Dintil High School and a UWI graduate with a degree in actuarial science. She was nominated as a community heroine because of her dedication to youth in her community and sharing her knowledge of mathematics. Here's a peek at the interview.
So you know that when you solve a math problem, if it's hard, so for instance, circle theorem, it's hard to kind of like find X because it's a lot of angles and things. So when I realized that I actually find it, that joy that I find inside, it was just, okay, I need to continue doing this because the joy that I get afterwards was just so satisfying. So I realized that, you know, there was this love for math from ever since, and just solving the problems, it just was peaceful. I have a little song, so. There's this little song to row your boat. It says, same sign add and keep, different sign subtract. Keep the sign of the larger number, that will be exact. So if you're doing direct numbers, if you have a negative 2 minus 1, how do I remember that that's negative 3? If the signs are the same, negative 2 and negative 1, the signs are the same. So you add the numbers and then keep the sign. Right? If the signs are different, so if it was negative 5 plus 2, you would subtract the numbers and then keep the sign at a larger number, and that would be exact. So my sister did CXC 2020, so I started teaching her and her friends September 2019. And then I just continued. So they all passed. All of them, every single one of them passed CXC Math. My sister got one. Well, it was COVID time as well. So it was they did straight multiple choice. So they all got excellent grades. So my real test, I would say, came in 2022 when persons now started to do both paper 1 and paper 2. Majority of my students passed. I got an 87% pass rate.
You can watch the full interview on our YouTube page at PBC Jamaica this Wednesday. And it's time now for the Business Report with Danita Rodney.
Studies have shown that women in Jamaica remain at a disadvantage in the labor force. The government is investing in efforts to improve women's participation in the labor force through grants, mentorship, and policy. In this episode of The Young Bosses, we talk to Makeda Layla, CEO of People Plus Management Solutions Limited. Her story of survival in the world of business is truly inspirational.
People Plus helps entrepreneurs to start, build, and grow their businesses. So we have services from business registration, business coaching, mentorship, training, and we also provide virtual assistant services. We can help you in starting your business, registering your company or your business name in Jamaica. We do all the paperwork for you. We advise you on what business structure you should register. So we provide certain levels of services. We also help companies after registration to get their business bank account setting up. We help them with business coaching and strategy calls so that they are not just registered, but they at least have an idea of what to do next. In 2019, when I started, I was working at a corporate company, and I remember a friend saying to me that, Makeda, I think you need to start a business because you have transformed this company and you should be out there helping other companies to grow. And I thought about it. It was in September, and I was like, business, not me really. But then I thought about it and I said, why not? Because at least I'm using what I'm passionate about and I'm helping other persons to grow their business. When I just started out, I had a lot of fears, I would say. I thought I wasn't good enough. I thought, who's going to buy my services? I'm this girl from Prospect, Clarendon. Like, I didn't go to those top schools or anything like that. But then having friends and knowing what you're about and knowing how passionate and how qualified I am, I like, but why can't I do it? Everyone else is doing it. Why can't I do it? And I believe that with God being my biggest push, it has been amazing. And it's not just to make money for us. It's really to see that their business is growing. It gives me pleasure to see and to get up to a text in the morning and say, hey Makeda, guess what? I got this done, I got that done. I'm now doing this, I'm now doing that. That alone in of itself gives me the most joy. And it's something that I want to do for the rest of my life. I am really happy and passionate that I found what I love and I'm doing what I love.
Now for your market updates. In foreign exchange trading for Friday, March 24th, the US dollar sold for an average of $151.75. The Canadian dollar ended trading at $110.98. The pound sterling traded for $186.23, and the euro sold for an average of $166.03. In JSE trading, the JSE index advanced by 1,262 points. The junior market index advanced by 34 points. The combined market index advanced by 1,499 points, and the All Jamaican Composite Index advanced by 861 points. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 104 stocks, of which 42 advanced, 53 declined, and 9 traded firm. Stocks advanced for Access Financial Services Limited, Barita Investments Limited, and Berger Paints Jamaica Limited. Stocks declined for AMG Packaging and Paper Company Limited, Blue Power Group Limited, and Caribbean Assurance Brokers Limited. Trading firm were 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited, Elite Diagnostic Limited, and Everything Fresh Limited. The overall volume leaders were Wigton Wind Farm Limited ordinary shares with over 4 million units, Indus Pharma Jamaica Limited ordinary shares, and Dollar Financial Services Limited with over 1 million units. In regional stocks, in Trinidad and Tobago, zero securities traded. On the Barbados Stock Exchange, Goddard Enterprises Limited was the sole security trading over 2,000 shares. In regional business, digital technology has been improving access to useful and affordable financial products and services, but Chief Executive Officer of the Trinidad and Tobago International Financial Center, John Outridge, says more can be done to ensure financial inclusion in the digital world. Terrian Brown Campbell reports.
FinTech Sprint for Financial Inclusion is a program to allow financial technicians to develop digital payment solutions, digital cash, and other products for the Caribbean. CEO of TNT International Financial Center, John Outridge, says allowing everyone to participate in FinTech activities is part of his company's mission.
Persons who traditionally transacting with cash, you're not really creating electronic record of yourself, you're not creating transaction history. So therefore, if you need to elevate yourself, you need to get a loan, to send your kids to school, to buy a car, to buy a house. There's no record of you.
Meanwhile, head of the United Nations Capital Development Fund's Eastern Caribbean Office and Regional Digital Finance Specialist, Helen Gradstein, says the two sectors chosen for development in the project are regional small farmers and the credit union sector.
This initiative in particular is aiming to advance digital payments and digital finance in general, particularly to try to ensure that women, disadvantaged groups, and in general underserved adults and individuals and micro-entrepreneurs are more economically resilient.
Ms. Gradstein says this initiative is designed to expand and accelerate digital financial offerings and services in this market.
And to launch this initiative, one of our first private sector investment opportunity or grant programs is this Caribbean FinTech Sprint for Financial Inclusion, which was designed in partnership with the TTIFC, as well as with many different stakeholders and partners from across the region.
Up to 5 successful applicants will be awarded a maximum of US $100,000 each to develop digital payment and e-commerce products. The new initiative was signed by the UNCDF, the European Union, as well as the Organization of African, Caribbean, and Pacific States. Terrian Brown Campbell, TTT News.
In international business, First Citizens Bank shares says it will acquire over $100 billion in assets of failed lender Silicon Valley Bank, closing one chapter in the crisis of confidence that have rattled global markets recently. More in this Reuters report.
There were hopes for calm over global banking on Monday, that after news of a buyer for Silicon Valley Bank. Over the weekend, US rival First Citizens Bank shares bought all loans and deposits of the collapsed lender. The deal sees SVB customers retain access to their accounts, with branches to open as normal on Monday. Analysts broadly welcomed the news after a week of mayhem for stocks. Europe's index of banking shares is down almost a fifth this month, but it opened the week with gains of around 1%. Deutsche Bank also recovered some ground after becoming the focus of concerns at the end of last week. Its shares were up around 4% in early trade. A week after its dramatic rescue by UBS, Credit Suisse also edged higher. However, few think the banking troubles are over. Banrion Capital Management founder Shana Sissel says that means sectors like aerospace and defence look like a refuge right now.
Both of those sectors tend to do well in economic downturns because they can be heavily supported by government spending.
On Monday morning in Europe, calm did reign, but many think another storm may yet be coming.
In market data for oil prices rose after a halt to oil exports and moves to contain a potential banking crisis that could have hit demand for crude. Brent crude futures were up $1.16 at $76.15 a barrel, and West Texas Intermediate crude rose $1.19 to $70.45. And that was the business report on PBCJ. I'm Danita Rodney.
In regional news, India remains keenly interested in a long-term oil supply deal with Guyana to help meet its vast energy needs and is hopeful that ongoing talks will yield positive results. This is according to the country's Secretary East in the Ministry of External Affairs, Saurabh Kumar.
Oil and gas is another working group within this framework, and in the context of Guyana, I must clarify that. And discussions are taking place, and what we want is a long-term supply deals. So once this group reaches some kind of discussions in this group reaches some kind of fruition, we would be having that. As far as Trinidad and Tobago is concerned, we'll be very happy to look at options. We are a huge importer of oil and gas. As I told you, we have investments in two of the countries of Latin America, Colombia and Venezuela. And any other opportunities which are there, we'll be very happy to look at those. Your president was out here, your vice president subsequently came out here. All I would say is good discussions have taken place, and these discussions are continuing. And our foreign minister is likely to visit your country, and we are hopeful that we would have a positive outcome of these discussions.
In news from Trinidad and Tobago, the 5th high-level forum of the Partnership Initiative for Sustainable Land Management is being hailed as very productive by its participants.
The two-day sub-regional meeting hosted by Trinidad and Tobago ended on Friday with the PISLM task force agreeing on its next steps forward. Among the positive outcomes of the meeting, an agreement which formalizes the establishment of the PISLM as the CARICOM Sub-Regional Institute, which will be responsible for the implementation for the UN Convention to combat desertification. Trinidad and Tobago's Minister of Planning and Development, Penelope Beckles, said this has been some time in coming and is a reassuring development.
And to mark this new chapter, the PSILM will lead the sub-region in what is the second phase of a project designed to categorize, map, monitor, and evaluate soils in participating countries. This project is the Caribbean Small Island and Developing States Multi-Country Soil Management Initiative for Integrated Landscape Restoration and Sustainable Food Systems, or CSIDS, or Soil Care for short.
Minister for Agriculture, Fisheries, Food Security and Rural Development in St. Lucia, Alfred Prosper, said he was excited by the outcomes of the meeting, in particular what it would mean for food security. He made the link between soil fertility and food security by sharing one of the challenges experienced in his country.
But we have 47 major rivers in St. Lucia, and we depend on those rivers for livelihoods, for irrigation water, for domestic water. But yet we are spending millions of dollars every year to remove the silt, only after a heavy rain event to see the very same rivers that we spend the money to the silt are being silted again. This is something that we need to address because soil fertility is very important.
Minister Beckles committed Trinidad and Tobago's full support to the initiatives coming out of the meeting and wished that its implementation will continue to see that the potential benefits of these efforts redound to the entire Caribbean.
There is optimism that the tourism sector will continue to perform despite the hike in interest rates in the United Kingdom and the United States to help battle inflation. It's coming from economist Dr. Justin Ram, who notes the rise in inflation in those two major tourist markets and should not impact too harshly on those looking to have vacations in the Caribbean.
There have also been recent the completion of wage negotiations, particularly for public sector workers in the UK. So that could be a sort of a countervailing measure against inflation and rising interest rates as well. So, you know, these economies continue to chug along, and I would expect that the tourism numbers should not be too adversely impacted by this rise in this quarter percentage point rise in interest rates at this point in time. We have to consider building resilience at home in all forms. I think we certainly need the right types of incentives to improve the business environment back in Barbados and in the rest of the Caribbean, so that we could start producing more of the things that we consume, including the edibles, the food that we consume. It's a perfect time for us to shift our taste habits towards more locally produced things. And I hope that the incentives can be put in place so it becomes much more easier for entrepreneurs to get into perhaps farming, to get into manufacturing, to get into the production of things that we might be accustomed importing. Because now it means that the terms of trade, as it were, terms of trade would suggest that how competitive our economies are could actually be in our favor now.
In news further afield, Honduras has formally broken off its decades-long diplomatic relations with Taiwan and switched to China. It comes after the Honduran foreign minister traveled to Beijing to discuss establishing ties. More from Al Jazeera.
Old friends make way for new ones. That's the result of the latest round of diplomacy for Honduras, as the country establishes relations with China. The foreign ministers of both countries putting on a display of solidarity shortly after signing a joint communique. For China, there is more to this than just Honduras.
The Republic of Honduras severs its so-called diplomatic relations with Taiwan as of this day and undertakes not to have any further official relations or exchanges with Taiwan.
Honduras foreign minister confirmed a break in relations with Taiwan, saying the decision's based on the economic needs of the country.
Generally speaking, they are interested in how the country is moving forward and how to continue working together based on mutual interests, defense, security, and the fight against organized crime. These are themes that are normally on our agendas.
Taiwan's president, however, hinted China has been luring away its allies through financial diplomacy.
We will not compete with China in the meaningless checkbook diplomacy. In the past years, China has been trying every means to suppress Taiwan's international participation, escalating military threats to us and impacting regional peace.
Taiwan is now left with only 13 countries officially recognizing the island as independent from mainland China. The United States being its main backer, even though Washington hasn't established official relations with the country. At stake is China's growing footprint in Latin America, where it has so far poured more than $130 billion. El Salvador, Nicaragua, Panama, and the Dominican Republic have already switched allegiances from the U.S. Honduras' announcement is also a blow to Joe Biden's administration, a sign Washington could be gradually losing its grasp on Latin America. Huda Abdulhamid, Al Jazeera.
In sports, Jamaica's Reggae Boys will now turn their attention to the CONCACAF Gold Cup after their 2-2 draw against Mexico at the Estadio Azteca in Mexico City, Mexico on Sunday night. The two teams clashed for the top spot in Group A of the CONCACAF Nations League. The tie assures Mexico the top spot in the group and a place in the CNL finals in June. Only the winners of the 4 League A groups will advance to the Final Four. The Reggae Boys finished second in a 3-team group with 6 points, while Suriname ended third with a single point. And onto the pitch with cricket. South Africa completed the highest successful chase in T20 internationals with a 6-wicket victory over the West Indies. This is despite Johnson Charles hitting the fastest century by a West Indian in cricket's shortest format. Ken Fuentes has the details.
The toss has been the deciding factor over the first 2 games of the series, with the team chasing coming out on top. South Africa's captain Aidan Markram won the toss and sent the West Indies into bat, with Johnson Charles smashing 118 from 41 balls that included 11 sixes and 10 fours, along with 51 from Kyle Myers and Romario Shepherd's unbeaten 41, helping the West Indies to 258 for 5 from their 20 overs. The host weren't deterred by that total and went after the West Indies attack. Quinton de Kock hit an even 100 as he and Reza Hendricks 68 put on 152 for the first wicket. As South Africa won by 6 wickets, completing the largest chase in T20 internationals. Speaking after the game, Johnson Charles said today's game was not something out of the ordinary for him.
I could recall just a couple of months ago where we played in the Bangladesh Premier League, and I was on the winning end where we had to chase 216 runs. So, like you said, I've seen it, I've been through it, so I know how it feels. But still, being on the losing end, you will feel disappointed. And like I said in the interview before we went out for the second half, we got to that point, so we expect that they can get to that point. It's all about us now preventing them from getting to that point. And, unfortunately, we were on the losing end, but going forward, we'll go back to the drawing board, see where we went wrong, and then move forward from there.
Game 3 in the series is on Tuesday. Kent Fuentes, TTT Sports.
And that's the news on PBC Jamaica. I'm Simone Absalom Gale. You can follow us on our social media platforms at PBC Jamaica. And remember, we are the People's Station.